Good evening, my lovely friends from all over the world. Here we are again, Paul and myself, for Mistaken Identity, chapter number 2. You are a liar. And effectively, maybe you feel a little bit offended by this statement, but Paul will explain everything about it. You are a liar, isn't it, Paul?
Yes, that's right. And Doug, before we get into the chapter, Doug talks about his childhood. In fact, with Doug, we mentioned about judging in the first chapter, and you will hear that he had a very, very difficult childhood because his adopted parents turned out to be alcoholics. They had some very difficult issues in the mind, and they really had a tough time, which meant he and his stepbrother also experienced a tough time. So Doug's experience is perhaps more extreme than most people, but a lot of people still go through this thing where you end up lying to yourself. I mean, I had experiences like this. I had some adverse experiences, but nothing like Doug did. And I learned to lie very, very soon on. I would lie, whether it be because I wanted to fit in. You want to fit in with everybody else, or you lie because you just want to be a person that is cool. And in my case, I would also lie because if I knew I was going to be in trouble, I mean, I would get hit. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I knew if I got caught, I was going to get hit. So I learned to lie.
So what to higher your chances of not getting hit of so
yes. At least, maybe I'll get away with it. So I'd learn to lie. But there will also be things where you'll hear about in this chapter, and again, Doug's not putting blame on anybody, but the people you grow up with, they have also got some programming, which means that they have lied to themselves. And so as a child, you can sometimes find it confusing when you're told not to do something, and yet your parents will do. I mean, my mother would say, you do what I say, not what I do. And even as a child, you sit there and you sort of think, hang on a minute. So
that's quite difficult.
Yes. And but when Doug was going through it, as you'll hear about in the chapter, he was being forced to lie for some pretty tough things. So if you think of all the things that you lie to yourself, I mean, Doug told us a story. I'll just tell you the one I was just mentioning to you, Nick. And he told us a story about, he has a daughter, Eden, lovely girl. And when she was little, she wanted to go on a fairground ride. And Doug didn't want to go on it because he was afraid, because he knew when he was a little boy, he'd fallen off the ride. And he explained this to his daughter, and he was nervous. Anyway, I think some other family people were around and said, no, Doug, you didn't fall off the ride. Your auntie, your step auntie, was getting off like one of the sort of seats or something. When the ride had finished, she tripped and fell over. And his mind then, as he remembered it, had twisted it into fell off the ride, I fell off the ride. And so he'd convinced himself in his identity that he didn't go on fairground rides because he'd fell off one when he was a little boy. So if we can think of things and in our mind, we can see them in a certain way and identify them in a certain way when we're small, we can actually find that we're telling ourselves things about ourselves that aren't even true. They're a lie. We've started to lie to ourselves, and our identity is affected by that. Our self-image is affected by these things we believe to be true. And sometimes these are things that other people have told us. And of course, when you're very small, you believe everything that you're told.
And this little story is like a minor, innocent story. It's nothing major, but I can imagine that there are people who are lying to themselves about more important things or major events that happened in their life. And I'm not convinced that we have to dwell with that, but it's good to recognize the possibility that probably the things that you think about yourself today are at least limited, false, exaggerated, or incomplete. And that can be the reason that you, at this moment, you have a luggage of paradigms that don't serve you.
Right. And then you're holding yourself back because of these things that you believe to be true about yourself, that you've related them to your identity. If someone says, I am not a good speaker, I am not good at meeting people, when you're saying I am, you were saying this earlier, Nick, then you are making that part of your identity, that you're saying to yourself, that's part of me. So in effect, you're lying to yourself. And of course, that part of your mind, the ego, it loves telling you all this rubbish.
Yeah, and it's curious that we are more active in the negative part of our I ams than in the positive part of our I ams. If I talk with students or people, or you just listen in the pub, well, there are not a lot. And if someone is bragging about himself, you can see it in his body language often that he doesn't believe it. It's just to show off at that moment, but it's like more out of uncertainty than out of real conviction. What they say.
And of course, in these particular chapters, Doug talks about there's sort of 3 phases in the book where you're starting to unlearn and then learn. So unlearn what's not true, and then learn about how your mind really works and how you direct yourself to understand your own self-image, and then relearn who you really are. And you already know who you really are, but we have to understand where all this misconception, where all this false thoughts, limiting thoughts have come from, and why we believe they're true.
Yeah, that's helpful, that you know that everything that you say, that you at least can be a little bit critical. And as we said discussed in the previous chapter, don't judge it. Don't
judge it. That's right. And in this case now, if you were in that court that they use in the judgment, I told a story about Doug imagining we were in court. Well, this is how we get caught out in court, because we find when we're giving our testimony about ourselves and what we think about ourselves, that it's a lie. And it's opinion. It turns out to be not factual, the things that we think about ourselves.
It is, in the eyes of the universe, it's a lie. But it's our truth.
Yes, because we've attached our identity to it. And of course, you don't realize, I mean, when I first went through the first course with Doug, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I had no idea. But as you become aware of these things, you realize this is why you feel this anxious, or you feel stuck, because you start to realize you're not being yourself. So shall I read through the chapter and then we'll chat some more?
Let's do that. I'll share the screen and then you can start.
Okay.
There we go. There's chapter 2.
Chapter 2, you're a liar. He who permits himself to tell a lie once finds it much easier to do it a second time and a third time, till at length it becomes habitual. Thomas Jefferson. Lies bring shame. Truth sets you free. My parents lied to each other. They lied to the neighbors to cover up their violence. And they lied to the police when they were called to our home to break up bloody fights. I was taught to lie to cover up what was going on in our home. My mum and dad fought a lot. Arguments were a daily thing, fueled by the poison of alcohol and inflamed by their own fears and self-loathing. I don't know if my parents were aware of what they were doing to themselves or each other. It was obvious they were violent alcoholics, and they abused their bodies, polluted their minds, and abused each other. But I don't think it was obvious to them the damage being done to themselves or their children. I was witness to deceit on a regular basis. I was scolded if I wasn't honest, but I was living with people who lied and who constantly encouraged me to lie. That's the beginning of me getting lost. My parents were hypocrites, telling me one thing and doing another. And like most kids, the second guessing started early. It's no wonder I grew up insecure. I didn't have a sense of right and wrong. I received so many mixed messages from my parents' behavior, and yet I was scolded for mine. Because I was afraid of my parents, I began to lie. The lies started as little white lies. I wouldn't get in trouble, but then they grew even bigger lies. So little white lies, so I wouldn't get into trouble, but then they grew into even bigger lies. I watched our parents lie, and we learned to lie. We watched them being honest with each other, dishonest with each other and others, and with us. We watched them say one thing and do another, and then we began to do the same. I began to wonder if my parents said to me, were lies. I questioned them, and I questioned myself. More judgment. A person can lie so much that they begin to think it's the truth. The more I lied, the worse I felt about myself. The shame and the regret that comes with lying ate away at me on the inside. Later in life, the lies created anxiety and depression, and they caused me to withdraw and detach from myself and others. I believe this is how I began to lose the connection with myself. At my core, I was filled with integrity. We all are, but we learn to lie. To protect myself from the abuse, I would lie. To protect myself against loss of love, I would lie. But the lies always catch up with us, and the losses mount and return later at a much higher price. What's more, lying creates inner conflict, erodes our self-worth, adds more second guessing, and breeds more shame. I stacked up my lies like a scorecard against myself. I was a loser. I couldn't keep all the lies straight. I had been lying for a long time to a lot of people, and I couldn't remember what was true. I wanted to be true to others, and I wanted to myself, but lying was part of what I thought I was. It was Christmas Day 2016, and I had finally mustered up the courage to face the truth and tell the truth. I was talking to my friend Pete, trying to work through my paralyzing fear of being honest. As I talked, it hit me that the source of my inner conflict and pain was confusion about who I really was compared to the person I was acting like. It didn't make sense. I was missing something. I felt something was missing in me. It was a feeling of emptiness that left a hole in my heart, and I had convinced myself there was something wrong with me. What was missing was a relationship with myself, which I found through understanding my true self better and letting go of my mistaken identity. I was able to do that through a relationship with God first. That was my window to a new relationship with the true me. For others, there may be a different way into themselves. When I filled in that hole, I was able to accept the forgiveness he was offering, and then began to forgive myself. When I found this connection with myself, I learned to be honest with myself. I learned to be honest with others. Looking back now, I can see how much pain I had caused. I had caused pain to those whom I hurt. I caused pain myself. It caused myself pain, and truth hurts. But you do heal. It's possible you've been lying to yourself and others for too long. I hope this will inspire you to find the courage to be honest with yourself, despite the risks and regardless of what people will think. If you lie because you're worried about what others will think, you'll end up disconnecting from yourself more. And that's destructive. You have nothing to fear from the truth. It would be a shame to keep lying. It would be a shame to try to be anyone else and lie about it. I challenge you to tell the truth. The truth is positive and a lie is negative. The truth feels good and lies feel bad. How do you want to feel? Take a risk and connect to yourself and discover who you really are. There's nobody in the universe like you. You're special and you're a gift. Don't bury it in a lie. And that's the chapter. And there's a meditation here. Don't lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put it on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. And here's that there's always a place in the book here where you can put your own insights from what you've got from the book, because it is a workbook here, and there is a course, we'll talk about that you can take with this. And here's the action points Doug's asked you to do in the chapter. Decide right now that you're not going to lie because you're worried about what others think or what they will do. Do not compromise yourself with a lie to cover up your fear of judgment. List some things you're not being honest about in your life and how it makes you feel. If you could feel yourself, what truths will you tell you? Pick one truth from your list each day and tell the truth. If you want to be free, be brave and tell the truth. You might be afraid, but you'll become stronger when you do. I think when I first started to learn about this, Doug was sharing it with us. I used to think, that's crazy. I don't lie to myself. I knew I'd lie to keep out of trouble when I was a kid, and when you think about it, have you ever been, like, you're going to a party or you're going somewhere, and you might say to a really good friend, how should I act? Have you ever done that? And they'll say, just be yourself. And you're like, well, I can't do that.
That's a good thing.
Particularly when you're younger. I think I used to do that. How should I act? And that's what we start to do. We are starting to have these feelings of anxiety and all these other feelings. And for some reason, we have difficulty to be ourselves because we've been telling ourselves all these lies, and we don't realize we've somehow connected them until we understand them to be our true identity.
I find this very interesting and very interesting conversation at each beginning of a coaching trajectory with someone or a group. For me, it's what we're now talking about that lying and the things that we're not telling the truth about ourselves. I found it very interesting if you discuss that with people of whatever type of religion, because if you someone of faith and you have certain type of religion, then there's a big chance that you will believe that you are created in the image of your creator. And then the next step is to say, yeah, that's true. And my creator is a very good one. And most religions, their creators are the best one. They are without any fault. So then it's very easy, the next step, to understand, because everything that you say about yourself, that's not positive. Everything that you believe about yourself, that's not positive, is a direct insult on the work of your creator.
And Doug,
he's making a mistake, or he didn't do his job correctly, or whatever. So it's not possible that you are limiting yourself or talking negative about yourself or believing negative or limited things about yourself, because you are created by someone who can do much better than probably you can do yourself.
Exactly. And Doug mentions God, his relationship with God, but whether it's the universe, source, or whatever it is you believe, it's not meant to be a religious thing, but whatever it is you believe, you were brought into this world perfect.
Yeah, because whatever you believe, even you don't believe anything, tomorrow if you get out of your bed, you believe in the law of gravity, and you believe also in some other laws that you're pretty sure that they will be just, correct, and always in the same place at the same time. Gravity is never too late.
Yeah,
the train is not too late, but gravity isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And I think today's world, obviously, it's particularly for younger people, it's very difficult because you've got so many things to compare with now, and all this stuff coming out in the media, and we see all these wonderful pictures of people looking really good, and you've even got these clever AI type things and filters, and it's almost, you've got apps to help you lie,
those are common things,
right?
Our children are brushing up their life the whole time,
but we're all great just the way we are, being ourselves. And whenever we are facing something that we feel that fear or anxiousness, it's our false identity, our mistaken identity that Doug's talking about in this book, that is telling us untruths about ourselves. Because if there's something in our lives that we truly feel in our heart that we want to do, then we have the capability of doing it. It's only this other stuff that we've begun to tell ourselves, or we've heard it and then started to repeat it as we grew up, and it's not our true identity. And we know in ourselves, this is why we have this push-pull. And of course, the ego, that part of our mind that loves to keep things a status quo. And whenever you're thinking about something that you think, well, no, I don't think I could do it, and only other people who are cool could do this, and some voice in your head is saying, you're right, you can't do that. Well, that's your ego. If you're not feeling good about it, it's your ego.
but you're fighting that moment, and that's remarkable. And when you're coming aware of that, I know that voice. Like, I know, maybe, yeah, maybe it's not a good idea, but that doesn't do away that desire or that energy that is like pushing yourself of doing something, of like coming out of your shell, or like a little plant that's just like pushing the first leaves out of the soil. You feel that you need to do it.
And of course, lies all come from the past. And we know what happens when we live in the past. Again, the past is where the ego lives as well, our ego mentality, and it wants to keep beating us up for things that we've done in the past, that we've done wrong. It tells us that when we fail, we're a failure, instead of, no, you've got something you're going for, and that's simply a course correction. So that didn't work, but you're still on the path. It's no different than when you are driving to get somewhere and you find you've taken the wrong road. You just back up and go back on the right road. So, you know, these most lies you'll find when you're thinking about something you realize is a lie, it will be from your past.
Yeah, I think it's often because you're recalling or you're imagining past things.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
And instead of using your imagination for the good, you're using your imagination as an anchor. Like whatever could go wrong.
And Doug always says,
that's why where doubt and worry comes.
Yes.
And then you're not at ease, and then we are close to dis-ease.
To dis-ease, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again we are searching for a cure outside.
Yes.
Again. And then you're in a vicious circle. And then at a certain moment you even don't believe that you are the cure, or that you that you're lying to yourself about the source of your dis-ease.
Yes, exactly. This is one of the things that I used to find frustrating at first, because when you start to work on your mind, or you go on a course or something, you want someone to just come along and tell you how to put yourself right or what's going wrong. Yeah. But of course, you find out that people say to you, well, you're going to have to go inside yourself, and all the answers are inside yourself. So you're like, do you mean to say I've just paid to go on this blimming course, and you're telling me that it's got all the answers inside of me? But of course, we know that is true. And we start to almost stop, become aware of what you're saying. Say, hang on a minute, is that true? Is that true? You can literally ask yourself that, and you start thinking, well, actually, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And that's why I think too much people are really shrinking or shredding themselves away from it. Because once you understand it, you have to accept that you have also the answer.
Yes.
So, and if you have the answer, you have to take up responsibility.
Yes, yes.
And that's so damn difficult to understand. Okay, once you decide that you are responsible of your mind, you're the captain of your soul and the master of your mind, that it's in for good and for bad. If it's good, yeah, then it's your results. But if it's not what you like, it is also because of the lies that you're telling to yourself, the convictions that you have about yourself that are not correct, that mistaken identity that you're dragging with you the whole time.
I think this is one of the things. Doug has some courses. If you want to know about the courses, you can get in touch with Nick or myself on that. But they have a course where you'll get together as a group of people who all want to work on their mistaken identity. And sometimes I think that can make people feel a bit anxious about being with some other people. But very quickly, from my experience, and I've been on 2 or 3 of these courses, and it allows you to start to understand what's happening with yourself, because someone will do, they call it hot seat, which sounds a bit intimidating, but they'll do a thing where Doug will then have a chat with somebody, and we'll all be listening, we're off screen, just as if Doug was chatting with him in a coffee shop, but other people could hear. And they will start to talk with Doug, or it could be even you or I, and they can do it with us. And we'll start chatting with them, and they will start to explain about how they see themselves. And we may have got to know this person a little bit, by the time it's their turn to come round, and you'll hear them and you'll think, that's not what this person is. This person's a lovely person, or all these things that are coming out. And even having just got to know this person over maybe a few weeks, you're thinking, no way. Do I see this person the way they think they are? But it also starts to help you, because you're able to see each other, and you start to understand what you're doing to yourself, because you start to realize this person's got themselves, wow, no way, that's so. But then you think, well, actually, I can see how I've got myself into all these false ideas.
Those group sessions are by far the best thing ever. I remember when we had our group sessions with Doug or Bob. It was more curious how other people reacted, how other people were cornered sometimes and helped, and because it's just a reflection of your own thinking. Because we all have the same issues, we all have this, but if you see it or if you can experience it in a safe environment, where everyone is only there for the good,
you
learn a lot of each other. You learn a lot of the paradigms, the limited beliefs. But what I also learned a lot in those group sessions, group coachings, is if you go regularly, in each week you see your fellow students at that moment, you see them involved, you see them getting expand themselves, they are changing their thinking, and you see how they are, their thinking is getting different.
Well,
and we had a little inside thing running when I did the book study club in Zoom. I had always some ex or old students that are coming back and just to refresh, and people are joining the book study, but without have been through type of course or never have studied it really in a guided way. You see them think differently, remarks are differently, their limited beliefs, and it comes every week they're coming back with the same complaint, the same identity problem, and they keep on, even if they're reading the same books, even if they're studying the same, but because they never have been pinpointed on their thinking problem, on the thinking issue, to discover their paradigms, they're just running the same cycle every time again, and they're thinking, why am I'm not getting better?
Well, you've got to get into the proper course, and particularly with you or I, if they get in contact with us, we can go through it with you, a number of times. It took me 3 times, and there are still things that I have to work at, trusting myself. This is something I was speaking with a lady called Linda, who was in one of the original courses that I was with, and she's been through them 3 times as well. And I still have to work at trusting myself. And you become aware of these things, and you're able to progress and move forward. But I still keep in touch with the original people who were in the very first group. because when we do this thing with Doug, everyone then comes back, and we all are asked to give our impression of that person. And of course, our impression of each one of us is like hundreds of % better than whatever it is we're thinking about ourselves. And but we all know in these sessions that we do that everyone's being, we're not trying to just put lots of fluff, if you like, and make someone feel better. We're telling people what we truly believe and what we truly see, and you start to understand yourself about things about your true identity. And as you get through these things and work through the book, or work with you and I and Doug, you get to a stage where you can learn what's going on, and then you can start to say, right, so who am I truly? Once we've got rid of all the false stuff, that leaves a gap, so we can fill that with who you truly are. And once you start to ask yourself, well, what are my true values? What do I truly care about? What do I truly feel about this, and and deep inside who you truly are. And then you learn, I know it sounds crazy, but you learn to be your true self.
Yeah, and the true self can then show up in business. The true self can show up in relationship.
In every part of your life,
towards children. It's discovering that true self is like being at ease and at your best in every part of your life. And that's something that I find remarkable when doing those coachings. And I see it also, but we know each other already quite a couple of years. We started together. And I saw you involving as another person. When I see you now, you're much more confident. You're much more like, you know where you're heading towards. You have some kind of mission, and that's like, I applaud you for that. It's very nice to see that you are getting, every time I see you, you're a better person.
Well, I think both of us enjoy working with each other, and we enjoy trying to help other people as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so let's bring to the landing. And well, I don't think if people can take that, we are now, stop judging, chapter 1. Stop lying, chapter 2. So combine it. Stop judging your lies, and next week we go on to discover.
You're going to put your links on the underneath this video again.
Yeah, I put this the links to under the video, so people who are interested can reach out or get directly in touch, buying the book or whatever, if you want to follow along with the book and start to studying this, because it's really like an onion. It's like peeling off to the center to then build up again, to expand yourself. And
there's also there's some other things like meet the author, or it might be, maybe we even get Doug on with us both one time, maybe when we get towards the end of the book.
That would be a nice thing to do.
All right.
So folks, I hope you enjoyed this session. I did, and we see each other next week, same time, same hour, for chapter 3.
Thanks, Nick. You're a star. Cheers.